Shall I lighten up? I can lighten it up a bit. Shall I lighten it up a bit?
Go on. Oh, it's that fellow, convicted fraudster, Damien Grant.
Friend. The
we're buddies.
We're going long tonight. That's all right. We'll whip through this, and you'll enjoy what you'll enjoy. So let's have a look at the working group last night. And this is quite a short clip. It's a minute for actually all the clip. I've got 4 clips. They're all quite short. They're about a minute and a half each. I just wanted to play this because I knew you'd enjoy this one, Chewie. This is Damien Grant making up facts to suit his own narrative and being called out for it.
But there was not a single nurse, there was not a single doctor, there was not a single policeman.
We've just removed $100 million from the hospital budget in order to maintain balance.
Yeah, but that was $100 million that was probably jacked up in the last 6 months of the last government. This idea that they're slashing...
So do you have any evidence for that, Damien, or is that just a statement?
It's just a statement.
There you go.
This is the word.
It's the word probably. It's Damien Grant going, it's probably all Labor's fault. Can you prove that? No. We'll just keep going. We'll get to the end of this point as well, because Damien Grant has said about no nurses, no doctors, no nothing are going to be losing their jobs. And Craig Renney has gone, so where are they finding the $100 million from then? That's where we're at so far.
I was going to say, so that's my point. It's going to say,
but I mean, has there been, well, no, this is your statement, has there been a single doctor or nurse that has left as a result of budget cuts since this government came into office?
I would say that there's probably plenty of doctors and nurses.
That is not a yes or a no.
They're not going to be able to do their job because no one's doing the paperwork in the background.
Also, if they're going to Australia, as many of them are.
Why are they moving to Australia?
Because the pay is better over there.
Right, okay, so break it down. The reason why they move, why can Australia...
So this is the libertarian argument. Of course the pay is better because the economy is richer. The economy does better. It's a chicken and egg argument. It's the cart before the horse. So he'll say, we're not going to pay them anymore until we get a better economy, whereas the other person will be saying the economy is better, so they get paid more. And it goes round and round and round and round and round.
Pay more
because we've got a deunionised workforce that hasn't done far enough.
Hold on. No. If they have a deunionised workforce and they're paying more in Australia, then what does that tell you?
We have a deunionised workforce.
We have a deunionised workforce.
That's why they're able to go out there and get better
deals. Because they have fair pay agreements that actually help to deliver pay for sustainable goods like that.
That is absolute nonsense. You can have a fair trade agreement in Kenya. It's not going to do any good. The reason why there are higher wages in Australia is a wealthier country. That's it. That's why. There's
also
no
a lot
other
more
reason.
unionised in the West.
And the union and the unions make absolutely no goddamn difference at the end of the day.
You're dead right. Australia is a wealthier country. It also has fair pay agreements. It also has a much more progressive taxation system and a capital gains tax.
And do you think all those things make it a wealthier country?
I have no idea, but I'm prepared to give it a bash.
I'm prepared to give it a bash, yes, Craig Renney. Let's play a couple other clips as we're going through. And Chewie, you can jump in and comment on that. It's clip number 2 from the show. Was actually Bomber going off. It's quite a cool clip to see Bomber when he gets a full head of speed up, talking about the anti-vaxxer brigades that are currently supporting Winston Peters. And that's really all the introduction you need. You'll enjoy this. He had a head of speed up on this one.
Quick round. The danger of Winston seducing the anti-vax crowd is that they are only sated by a Nuremberg trial where Jacinda and the front bench of the Labour Party are hanged outside Parliament.
And the media.
Oh, yeah. Will Winston have to step up the media are all bribed big lie, or will it be some conspiracy about Maori secretly making another COVID virus that only infects Pākehā? Thoughts?
There's no question there. That is just another deranged Martin Bradbury rant with absolutely nothing behind it.
Winston Peters has been doing the media a bribed big lie because he needs to give his crazy anti-vax Swamp Kingdom nutters something to breathe in. And if you actually look at what those people are saying online,
which people?
They are his supporters, his anti-vax supporters,
but it's not
Voices
him.
for Freedom, who are working inside the New Zealand First machinery now, who are actually part of the legislative process, who pushed for the WHO to not be ratified and not signed because apparently they're all part of some global cabal.
Is there a question
global cabal?
Is there a question anywhere in this? I think, to Craig's point, that yes, there is a real problem that this government has. And speaking to some of the ministers there, it is a frustration that New Zealand First is a handbrake. And because New Zealand First
Isn't
is
it
a
funny
handbrake,
that
they're unable to get
Damien Grant is talking about Winston Peters being a handbrake as a negative, whereas Winston Peters has been got elected by saying, I will be the handbrake and keep them in check. And he's being a handbrake according to
That's been
Damien
his
Grant.
thing
Yeah.
for over a decade.
Yeah, for sure. All right, do you want to speak to anything yet? Or I've got a couple more clips as well. It's enjoyable. Did you enjoy that? Do you like seeing Bomber with a full head of steam up there?
I mean, it was very unhinged, but yes, I do agree. I do enjoy. Look, it's funny how it's always the same with Damien. Is like he can go off on some unhinged tangent, some ridiculous hypothetical, but as soon as somebody else does, that's not playing a straight back.
Where's the question?
I mean, I've seen some of the comments to convicted for us to Damien Grant's columns in the paper, and he should know these unhinged people. They're his audience as well, so he can play that sort of thing of like, oh no, I'm a learned intellectual coming from a libertarian point of view.
Yeah.
But there's a Venn diagram in there of the people that think Winston's right to talk about the WHO. And the people that say socialism would never work, but libertarianism definitely will. I'm going to be a lord, not a serf.
I'm just going to pour myself a drink. The other thing that I found quite terrifying about that little commentary by Bomber was the idea of the Voices for Freedom fuckwits being involved in the legislation, the inner workings of New Zealand First. Now, I also came across this on Twitter today. The lovely Dudley Benson, who does a lot of sort of background work and looks into this sort of thing. People in Dunedin probably know him best as one of the men who owns Woof, said this. Update, 3 days in, far-right Reality Check Radio's website now states it has raised 71% of its 480 goal in 1 week. I've now heard via a close source that the three founders, Voices for Freedom's Claire Deeks, Alia Bland and Libby Johnson, each aim to receive a $100,000 salary from RCR. So that 480K that they're raising, according to insiders talking to Dudley, sounds like 3/5 of that is going to be to pay the 3 of the disinformation 12, Chewie. The allegations, and we put them out there as anonymous sources with no evidence to back that up. But
now,
those two things together.
While we were crowing about, Rabbit Hole Radio being off here and crying poor for money, there was a voice in the back of my head going, this is a rather excellent grift opportunity to really tighten the screws and really ramp up the urgency to get money rolling in. And almost straight from the get-go, they had a dollar for dollar matching thing. They were always going to achieve this somehow.
Well, I don't know.
It's a great branding and advertising opportunity.
The next part of the conversation on the podcast was then actually after Bomber and Damien Grant argued over things for a while. The lovely Craig Renney came in and actually answered the question.
What crazy thing is Winston going to
use
next?
I actually think there's something in your question, so stay with me, which is that Winston needs conflict.
Yeah, that's a good point.
New Zealand First needs conflict. It's how it garners votes. When it has gone out of Parliament, it's gone out of Parliament having been in government, having to defend its actions. And so Winston stops being Deputy Prime Minister in, I don't know how many, a year, a little over a year now.
Yeah.
He needs conflict after that point in order to say, I would have done it differently if I'd been re-elected. As a consequence, you need to do this for me.
Yeah,
and that conflict is the thing that he needs.
I wondered, however, and that has been proven time and time again because he has been tossed out. But you kind of think age 79 or so, a little bit south of Biden in the United States and wearing a hell of a lot better. But you kind of wonder at some point, because there is no real heir apparent.
Excuse me.
Who's that name?
I know. Just want to put it
Caught
out
in
there.
the act.
I know. Cheaters.
Right.
Will National throw a seat?
Yeah.
I would think it would be the logical thing to do. So if you did get 4%, you had a seat, you were back anyway.
That's how they get their agenda. Right? Well, because I think Winston's problem is that I don't think that Shane Jones and Cassie Costello and who's that Wellington mayor?
Andy Foster.
Andy Foster. Those guys are not want to go to an early election.
No, they won't.
So in exactly the same way as he tried to bring down, was it Jenny Shipley or somebody else? Tauhena and all the rest defected, right?
Yeah, but you can't do that now under the current rules.
The Walker jumping.
Under the Walker jumping.
Yeah.
So there you go. So Craig actually answers it in quite a clever way. And there is one more clip, unless you'd like to speak to anything now. The last clip is can Luxon reign in Seymour? They had a bit of a debate around that.
Yes, no.
Just get for that.
Big play button. Go.
And this is actually, remember last night I said I flicked over and watched the live and I heard Damien Grant. Sorry, do you want to add his title? Because you always like to add his title.
He's got many, but the one I like to go back to is convicted fraudster. Damien
Right,
Grant.
I've heard that too. Actually said something I agreed with, and this is about how Luxon's got no control whatsoever. So this is the conversation. Can Luxon reign in Seymour in particular?
I mean, 72 hours after warbling about how tough Luxon was in sacking Melissa and Penny, David Seymour was contradicting him and telling him, journalists, he couldn't sack any ACT MP like that. How much more undermining can Luxon put up with before he has to rein your mate David in?
Well, he can't reign in Seymour, nor can he reign in Winston Peters because they are in a coalition. But I don't see that as being necessarily fatal to Luxon. I think if Luxon just has to play the cards that he's dealt, and like I was saying before, because both Seymour and Peters have their own kind of worldview and they're quite good at articulating it.
Very good. Luxon
doesn't have an alternative to go out there, and so he's not going out there explaining to the public what he wants and why should we do this thing? Where is the destination? Where is this bus going?
Yeah.
I don't think he needs a vision, but at the very least he needs to say this is where we're going and this is how we're going to get there. And he doesn't have that. And if he did, I don't think it would matter what the two wings would do, because he could say, we're going to do this thing, we're going to do A, B, and C, and this is the outcome that we're going to get. And he's not doing it, and he needs to.
Follow-up question, what number does National need to drop to where Luxon's leadership is in trouble? They're 34 at the moment in the internal Labour, 36 in this latest poll. Where do they need to drop?
I don't think National is going to think like that. I think National, to be fair to National, they've got an idea about what they want to do. Right? It's fairly narrow from my perspective, and it's not particularly ambitious. But they have an idea where they want to go to, and people like Pink and Bishop and so forth, they're on board and they know where they're going. They've got a pretty good relationship going with ACT, a bit more of a complex relationship with New Zealand First. I actually don't think that's... And if they fall to, in the high 20s, I don't think they're going to panic. They know what they're doing. That might change, a year out from an election, but no, I don't think that's on their horizon.
Quick round, how long?
There you go. So that's there's not a heck of a lot in there that I think he is wrong on from the perspective. He's got no control.
No, I've got a lot of criticisms, but not.
And I don't think that Luxon's going anywhere. I don't think that if it did drop to the high 20s or something. One of the interesting points from the podcast that I didn't show a clip for is one of the points that got made a couple of times, and I think from Fran O'Sullivan made it, is if at some point they're going to need to make a decision that if they are projecting a tough election next time around and maybe a one-term government, they can get a lot done in one term, and maybe they need to go harder to set things in motion for 3 years rather than think about 6 or 9. And that was mentioned a couple of times. That's an interesting and frightful experience. Maybe that would imply they're not going hard enough right now, Chewie, that they may need to pick up on it and push harder.
I saw a comment, and I highlighted it last night when I didn't get to it, but it was an interesting theory that the government is front-loading so much bullshit into the start of their first term that they get it out of the way.
Right.
People's memories are short, right? We'll hopefully forget about all of it by the next election.
Right.
I think if it comes to the next election, look, Luxon likes being a leader. He likes to position himself as an effective leader.
Yeah.
I think it also looks like a butt plug, I'm just going to say. And this is just a theoretical mental exercise. If he was to lose the next election, that
Yeah.
glorious happy day where I'm instantly drunk. Do you think he's the type of leader that will take his lumps, stay on and rebuild? Or do you think he would fall on his sword and bugger off because he's not going to get a knighthood?
I still think what we said last year, that if he was to lose last year, he wouldn't stick around. Who the hell wants to be looking for a knighthood and have to sit 3 years in opposition to do it, and then try and sit for 6 years in government to get there, when you can just basically retire, work part-time on various boards and live a luxurious life? I can't imagine he'd want to stick around, but could be wrong.
Yeah.
Could be wrong.
And every time we mention them being a one-term government, that is extremely unusual for New Zealand.
Yeah. Yeah, and if it did happen, I mean, that philosophy that they were talking about on the podcast of they need to get a lot done now. In other words, change the plan from a 9-year or a 6-year to a 3-year and see what you can get done. Because, I mean, like Labour, when they had a majority for the first time ever, they could have done whatever they liked, other than constitutional issues which require 75% in the House. But they could have done whatever they liked, and many of us would say they wasted an opportunity. With Luxon alongside, I mean, I guess if Winston is the handbrake, I mean, gosh, is this blasphemy what I'm about to say? Are some of us grateful that Winston is there as a handbrake? Would it be so much more worse if it was just a two-headed taniwha? I feel dirty saying that. I want to go have a shower now, but is that actually a truth?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the trap for people like us and those of us in the chat that are really engaged in this process and game out every possible action and really comment on how good and bad things are. That's us, and we're an edge case when it comes to this. What about the person that just reads the odd headline every now and then, that catches the poll results once every 8 months or just in the lead up to the election, or makes their mind up on the day?
Yeah.
Like, that always catches people like us out. It's like, oh shit. So the message that had cut through was not the one that I thought was the most important thing.
Yeah.
So that's just, when you're talking to people that are in that camp, it's educating. It's trying to build a team to get the result that you want. But I think there's a lot of work that gets so far away, but also is not that far away, that there's a lot of work that needs to be done to point out how this government has caused a net negative effect on everybody's life. And at this stage, they won't have seen it. And it feels horrible to say this, but I hope that people do notice that in coming year, 2.
Yeah. Kia ora again, whānau. The clip you've just watched is brought to you today by our patrons. If you want to be a part of what we do, if you want to get behind what we're doing, if you're enjoying our content and wanting to share our content, then maybe you would consider being a patron to Big Hairy News. Head to www.patreon.com/Big Hairy News to sign up to one of our levels and be a patron. At this point, we are only a listener and viewer supported show. It all comes down to you guys. If you feel like jumping on board to help, then head to patreon.com/Big Hairy News. Hooroo.